Good evening. I thought about this for the last 2 days if I should make this video or not. The reason why is because we really have come a long ways in terms of electronics being integrated into the model railroad world. When I started out, basically, the main control system was a transformer like this here, which basically jumps from winding to winding in either side, in this case for DC. This particular one here I got on eBay, you saw that maybe the other day, has a problem where it doesn't make any more contact here. It does good on this side, but it doesn't go all the way over. This is the 110 volt version, I believe, of this. Yeah, they got the primary 110 volts. And secondary one is 0 to 15 volts DC and 14 volts AC, which is going to be a little bit higher. And they can be opened up if you drill out these rivets here on these sides, and then you could fix this here. The two lights are basically the overprotection, and then you have basically two outputs. You have yellow for the two tracks, and this is AC, usually for the lighting in the housings and the switches and decouplers and that sort of stuff, which you could activate. This was to stand the time when I came into the world of the model railroads in the late 1970s. There was then a kind of newer version out here. They had this here and this here marked white, and they called that the MFS, which stood in Germany, Multisensibler MSF, Multisensibler Feinbereich, something like this. So this was supposed to be driving your engines and everything else better at the low speeds. So it would be more realistic, but it didn't quite work that way. At the same time, this here had basically gotten me a start in the electromechanical world at the age of about 10 on up. And by the time I turned 12, which was in 1979, I had come across this magazine which was called ELO, which they do not publish anymore. I think it ceased to exist in the 1990s as the internet came about. And they featured primarily analog circuitry. And in the December 1979, let me see that you can see this here, because the other day I cut this off by accident, 1979 December edition, this is the one I actually got. They featured a circuitry in here, if I can find it, I will show you, which was for a, here, this one here, which they called Traumfahrpult V. W was for Wechselstrom AC, and it means that was a dream Fahrpult, dream regulator or dream controller for AC controlled or for AC model railroads. And you can see this, they featured a schematic in here. They explained it on how the circuitry worked, and then they had this in here where you have a circuit board layout which could be transferred. And now I have to carefully lift this up and then see. Here is number one, and there should be a second one for the other one, which is here, which is this here. And you can see it says ELO 1279, and ELO 1279 So this is the transferred circuitry already pre-drilled in a exact 1-to-1 size, and they have been quite old. This one has not been drilled yet, but I have to do that. And they fit like this, and then when you flip them around, you can see what part actually goes where. The way the ELO magazines worked with this here was you could order the layout, or you would put this in a photocopier with toner, and then use a spray which would clarify the paper, and then you can actually put this on a photo pre-sensitized circuit board, and you can see this, it would transfer your layout directly on here. And then when you flip this over again, you can see on how this matches up here, and you can drill all the holes. Anyway, so this is how I got started in electronics. I made these circuit boards when I was 12 years old, and in the year earlier, 1978, the ELO magazine had a regulator for DC trains. So, and that was the one, I really didn't want to build this one, but I had to make them anyway. And I don't have the 1978 magazine here. My aunt, my mother's sister, and her husband's my uncle, my aunt, they owned a bookstore up in northern Germany, between Hanover and Hamburg, in Uelzen. And my aunt had gotten me the 1978, let me put it this way, I got the subscriptions from October 1979 when I turned 12 for my birthday. And so the earlier, before October 79, I didn't have. And my aunt sent me the one for 1978, which features the Traumfahrpult G for Gleichstrom, DC, which is this one here. And I have this here in this book, and I can show you this. This book came out in 1981. This here, is this the one? Yeah. No. They had two DC ones, a simpler one, which was this here. I built this circuit here first, and that was in another magazine. I think they were both published in 1978, and then in 1979 ELO published this here, and then by 1981 they put the book together. And this was you can see this again, you have a fairly large size layout. And this is the Traumfahrpult G as it was featured. This was just a more electronic means of regulating a DC engine layout. And this was then the more sophisticated one on how this worked. And I will build one of those because I finally found these two CNY42 optocouplers over eBay. I got 7 of them, and they're coming from all places, from Budapest, Hungary. That's where I found them. I got already all the power transistors and the regular transistors and all the other parts here. So I will build this just to relive this basically, and then we can demonstrate this. But this is again here the Traumfahrpult W. This is the same one as what I have here in this here. So this is basically what this looked like. And this came about, you can see this is the same layout here as we have it with the two. This actually I want to use for a friend of mine in Tennessee who got a Märklin system, and I still need to build this, so I'm going to build both of them when the optocouplers for the DC systems, these what are they, CNY42s, are coming in. But this is basically on how this started. And they have a very elaborate control system actually featured in here for a train station with multiple tracks, which you can see here. So you have several switches where you can route the trains onto either one of the 4 tracks through it. And in the model railroad world, it doesn't quite work this way. In the real railroad, you can actually direct one from A to number 3, but you will not be able to do this out of this layout with regular switches the way they are for Fleischmann or Märklin or any one of those. You will be able to go straight from here to A to 4 or from B3 in either direction, but you will be able to go this here. I think so. There's one direction you cannot do in the on the railroad. There's one crossing, one combination which does not work. I forgot which one that was. And the entire circuitry for this, I still have this here in the book, is this here. And this was all done with discrete logic. Yeah. So you can see this here. We have the tracks with the feeds and the sensors they use. They're explained in the book. So you know where your locomotive is, and then the switches for the which way they are. And this is all done with discrete electronics. So they had different circuit boards for those, which are indicated here in these dashed lines. And this is how we did this. There's no software involved. This is all done with NAND, NORs, ORs, flip-flops, and that sort of stuff. And this was part of the book. They're explaining these, things here. Now, you wonder, see, you got, that's an AND, NAND, OR, NOR, inverter, and a D flip-flop. And so they're explaining these different discrete electronic pieces which we had back then. So you could basically develop a truth table out of it and do the entire programming. So they have all these logic, NORs, ANDs, combinations here. And you can then basically derive the logic out of it of what is going to be connected where and when, and what has to have binary functions in here to get this thing to work. I'm probably not explaining this very well, but this is so outdated today. You would do this in software. You could do this with an Arduino, for instance, or something similar. Again, as at the time when this book was published, the microcomputers we had at the time, or computers, which were reasonably priced, I would set this in an apostrophe, was the Sinclair ZX80 and 81. And they used an 8080 or 8088 processor, the same one, and you had probably 32 kilobytes of memory or 60 RAM or 64 kilobytes of RAM. I actually still have one of the Siemens sheets here for the LS, what they had in terms of logic and RAM and ROM devices back then. This is 1979, 1980. So the first EEPROM, which was erasable, was a Saab 2808, 8 kilobytes, bits. That's not even bytes, that is bits. So this is 1 kilobyte basically, because there's 8 bits to 1 byte. So you have to divide this. So this is 2 kilobytes and this is 1 kilobyte. And this here would be 1.6 kilobytes basically. So this is extremely 128 bits to 4K bits. So this is 400 bytes basically what you had, in terms of storage for RAM. This was extremely small what we had to work with, just to give you an idea. So this has gotten a lot easier. I made this video primarily for the younger people who probably have never seen anything like this. They may have seen the Transformer, and we probably maybe have younger people who are looking into getting started in the model railroad world, and they're looking at DCC or at the Märklin digital systems or the Motorola, all of the different digital formats we have. And then they see these starter packages, for instance, on eBay, which usually have some form of a transformer included. And so now the question comes, what can you do with this? There's probably still older people out there who didn't want to get into the electronic part, and they stayed with the transformers, where you still can do a lot of stuff with it. And then we have people like, I went from this over this here, and now I'm getting into DCC with the other trains. And just as a notice, I actually got me one of these here from Fleischmann. This is a Fleischmann insulated piece here. You can see this. We will make a video about it because I'm gonna convert the other motor over, since I got the drill bits came in too, I needed. So hopefully next week, I bought this here so I can salvage this one, and then we're gonna convert this here correctly. So I'm gonna take this motor out of this engine here and we can convert it. The V60s, because they have a weight in here and the housing basically kind of blocks everything off, there is no room to convert the V60s from Fleischmann over to digital, because you cannot put the circuit board anywhere unless you want to take the weight out. But the weight is, that locomotive is so small, that engine is so small, that won't really work right unless you have weight on it. If you want to pull, a consist which has a few more cars in it. But this is basically what I wanted to show you. So eventually I will make a video about this here, the AC unit, which we are going to send to my friend in Tennessee, and I will build the DC one. But this will be probably coming later when I set my system up, and then we can compare this here with the Transformer in terms of performance and DCC. So we're going to run 3 tracks next to each other with the same Fleischmann locomotive, and then we can compare which one actually controls the locomotive better and which one gives us a better performance. The performance criteria on those was always at the very slow speed, and when you're actually starting the train, when you're starting to accelerate and the deceleration, that was always the big thing in those. I thought that might be of interest to some people, to some viewers, and I'm going to put the video up. With that, you have a great evening.